Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. This is Steph Lee, the founder of Host Agency Reviews. You are lucky enough to land on the Friday 15 today. So, welcome, everyone. It's great to have you here, whether it's your first time or you've joined us for many of the weeks. Every Friday, 12 p.m. Central Time, we answer the questions that you have submitted to us. And I'm also going to pop up our QR code where you can submit your questions for the live stream. So you can scan that, or you can go to hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15 to submit your questions. And today we have a lovely co-host on. You may recognize her from previous Friday 15s. We have Lindsay Taylor Lauer from Travel Leaders 365.
Hi.
Hello. So great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and it's Memorial Day weekend, so very great way to cap off the week. So
Definitely.
well, before we get started, two quick announcements. One, our survey is still going, and I'm going to pop up the QR code for that. And again, if you don't have your phone with you, or if you're listening to this, you can go to hostagencyreviews.com/survey and take the survey. But this is really important. This is where we get all the data that we publish out for the industry. The other important thing to remind people of this year is that because this takes us so many woman hours here over at Host Agency Reviews, we will be charging this year. So if you don't want to pay for it, which I don't think you should go and take the survey, because then you'll get it for free. And that's our bribe to you to take the survey. And actually, I just got an email from someone this weekend that said they took the survey. They're a newer advisor, and they were like, it was so helpful for me thinking about my agency and different things about it that I hadn't thought about. So there's another selling point for you, everybody. So take the survey. It's going to end in a few weeks, and then at least I think it's a few weeks. I can't remember the exact end date. But the other thing I wanted to mention is those of you may remember that during Host Week, we launched our first ever course on how to start your travel agency. And I want to remind people, so whether if you're new, it's a great thing to check out and take. But for those experienced advisors, or even if you're newer and you have friends that are like, how do you become a travel advisor and things like that? Make sure to sign up for the affiliate link for it, because you can earn 20% commission if you refer anybody and they end up signing up for the course. So that, let's see. I'm going to pop that in the comments. So that's not a friendly link, and I didn't do the QR code ahead of time. But I'll pop that in the comments and the show notes for people. But make sure to sign up for that. And then, Lindsay, we've got some fun questions. So let's get started.
Awesome.
All right, first one is from Seth B. And Seth asks, hello, I am starting a new agency and wanted to see if anyone has knowledge about the Florida seller of travel license. Am I required to get one? My background is I am based out of Arizona. All of my business is driven in online sales, mostly social media platforms. Am I okay if I simply don't sell to Florida residents? Do I still need to get one regardless, since most cruise ships are embarking from Florida? And Lindsay, you're the perfect person to answer this since you're out of Arizona, right?
I am in Arizona, yes. My understanding, and I know that Host Agency Reviews has resources for this. So I always recommend, anytime you have a question about any kind of licensure or certification, go to someone who knows more than you, which Host Agency Review does, and I'm sure that it's been advised. I also cannot recommend highly enough to any advisor, whenever you have a question like this, don't ever hesitate looping in legal counsel. You're running a business and you are liable financially. And so it's a lot better to spend a little money up front on an attorney and clarify any questions that you have. But that said, the Host Agency Reviews resources are super, super clear and simple. My understanding, and the way that I've always approached it, I've always been a part of an agency that's been exempt. So, and as staff, I've never really had to worry about it. Because of that, my understanding is that if you are an advisor in Florida, transacting in Florida directly, and you have clients who live in Florida, so Florida residents, you do need to, there's two different approaches for the Florida seller of travel law. The seller of travel laws are super complex, which is also why you want to talk to someone who knows more than you do. But my understanding is that at that point, you would need to have one of the two, either the full or the independent contractor one. But that said, it's if you're it gets super specific, right? So if you're transacting directly, then you'd need it. If your host agency is exempt and you're transacting through your host agency, then so it gets a little convoluted there.
It does get pretty hairy. I think so there can be specifics within here, but like the easiest way to explain it, and I'm going to pull up, well, I'm going to attempt to pull up while we're talking. Um, the article we have on this. So we will link to this in the show notes, but also if you just visit the site and up in top, you type in like, let's see, if you type in license, which it's under, do you need a travel agent license? So these are the seller of travel laws. And if you're in Canada, there are also Canadian restrictions as well. And at the very top of the article, we link to right here the Canadian regulations. But for Florida, Florida and California are the two states that I would say enforce it more readily than, say, Washington or Hawaii. But with Florida, the specifics behind it are if you are selling to a resident of Florida, so even if they live, let's say, 5 months out of the year in Arizona and then they're in Florida the rest, but they're a Florida resident, they would be considered someone that is a Florida resident. Um, so if they're a Florida resident or if they are, let me see, if they're a Florida resident or if you are based out of Florida or your host agency, that's when these laws are going to apply to you. And the one thing to keep in mind, like the thing that I think is most important for independent contractors with this seller of travel license is you need to get one either underneath your host agency or on your own. But if you are going underneath your host agency, the main thing for you to keep in mind is that money can't really transact in your hands. So if a client comes in and pays cash and you're not technically able to handle money, everything should be going through your host. So if they write a check to you, it shouldn't be to your agency, it should go to the host agency. And to give people the big picture on why that's happening is they just want to make sure it's their way of protecting consumers so that if a host agency goes defunct, they have the seller of travel registration information so they know who it is and they have the contact information and things. So that's kind of the big pictures on it, but we will link to the article in here. And I will also link to, as Lindsay said, it's a good thing if you have questions to discuss them with an attorney. We'll link to a specific travel attorney list. So these are people that are very well versed in the seller of travel laws. They get a lot of questions on them. The other thing I will say for the seller of travel license is, and because this has popped up a lot, and we had a big discussion actually on it on our course the other day, because there are some advisors that have started to charge their consultation fees. So that's taking money still from your clients. And if you really look into the statutes that are there for Florida or whoever it is, like some people are saying, well, this is a consulting fee. It has nothing to do with travel or planning. So I can take this money and not have a seller of travel license. And I went ahead and wrote like 3 different travel industry attorneys to kind of get their opinion on it. And 2 of the 3 were like, no, you should definitely not be doing that. That's not, even though it doesn't specifically say in some instances consultation fee, you should not be doing that. And one of them was like, there might be some legroom because it isn't specifically stated there, but and it hasn't been tried in court. But recommended you should probably play it on the safe side. So just so people know that if you are charging those consultation fees, know that there is some risk involved with that. Let's see. So Seth, hopefully that answered your question. But definitely check out the article because there's a lot more information and specifics in there, especially if you're using your host agencies. Let's see. Next question is from Jen A. And Jen asks, hello, I need some feedback on creating a business plan. What have people done in regards to a business plan? Did they write it with the help of someone else? Did they use a template to create it yourself? Or does your host agency have anything to do with creating that business plan? Lindsay, do you help out with business plans?
I love this question. I do. I love to help my advisors out with business plans. if they want it, right? My advisors are independent, and so they typically come to us. So it's a service that we happily provide when it's requested of us. I have kind of my own set of templates that I've developed. I know you've got a set of templates and guides there also.
Hmm.
They're fantastic to help. But I think the most important thing that an advisor can, and I love that this question is being asked, because this means that you're really taking your business seriously, and you're really trying to target it and optimize every opportunity, and that's beautiful and good. So I think the most important part is that you recognize what you actually want to be doing in the industry, and then craft your plan around that. Who do you want to be working with? What kind of suppliers do you want to be working with? Because you're going to have very different approaches depending on the type of demographic that you're seeking out, and your existing network, right? Who do you already know? How are you going to build that? Who are you going to ask for referrals? And on it. We know this is a referral based business, right? Travel advisors rely so much on that. And so it's really, how do you optimize your existing network? How do you expand your network? And then ultimately, how do you turn your existing clients into that referral network as well? So those things all kind of come into play when you're looking at your business plan. But definitely using templates, just like the advisor at the beginning of this, when you were saying that just filling out the survey helped to clarify so much. It's almost just sitting down and critically thinking about your business and how you want to do it. It helps the business plan along just by itself too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like the business plan, you're going to stray from your business plan most likely, but what it does is it like actually gets you thinking about things that you wouldn't probably have thought of before. I think that's the big value in a business plan.
Mhm.
Especially if you're coming from outside the industry and you don't know a whole lot about the industry, it gets you asking questions to yourself that you might not have thought about until you ran across them. So let me show you on the site. So if you type in, it should just be business plan. Yeah. If you type in business plan up on the top, this will pull up the free template. So for those of you that are listening, you're not going to be able to see this, but here's like what the PDF looks like for those of you that are watching on video. So it's a pretty long, let me see, it's 14 pages long, goes over a lot of information within here. And we've also written it out as if we had a travel agency so that it isn't just blank information in there. It can kind of give you an idea. And some of those resources we cite because it's always important to do a little bit of background research and things along those lines. So say for instance we'll talk about how in travel you're not expecting to actually make money right away because you're not going to get paid until people travel or until their final payment is made. And so talking about kind of with those industry projections, things along those lines. So again, it's free. And actually, if you take the course, we have it's a more in-depth business plan available for people, and actually where you can just write it. We kind of ask you questions, and then it pops out a PDF that is a business plan. So you're not having to work in Word or anything along those lines. But one thing I will say, so Lindsay does help with the business plans and things like that. Is not something every host agency does. So that's something for people to be aware of if that's something important for you with your host agency to ask about it, like if they could help out with the business plan and what kind of resources they have available to you.
I think it's also a good opportunity for advisors to evaluate their fee structures, talking about fees,
Mm.
starting to figure out how you want to incorporate those, how to really optimize. And so it's just a good time to really clarify and reflect. So don't forget those more difficult concepts too as you're putting together your business plan. But as you said, Steph, it will change, right? You're not married to it. And as things happen, you're going to update your business plan. Hopefully, you're going to continue to reflect and modify that plan as it grows. So.
Yeah, exactly. And last question. So this one comes in from Lydia B. So, hi, Steph. Curious if you know any way for TAs to get a free Admirals Pass. I regularly fly with AA, but apparently my gold status doesn't get me access, and I can only afford main economy tickets. I don't know if this is a thing, but I'd love to find out if there is a way to get it as a TA perk. Um, Lindsay, I don't know if you know the answer to this. I am a Delta girl through and through, being out of Minneapolis. So,
To my knowledge, there used to be a time, right, long time ago when airlines
wined
had
and dine.
waivers for us. Yeah, it was so nice. Those times are gone. My recommendation, if you sell a particular airline and you develop a really good relationship with your rep, sometimes they're able to extend, Admirals passes and stuff, but oftentimes it's more of an earned situation. So it really, as with everything in the industry, it's revenue dependent. So if you're producing a lot for a particular airline and you get the attention of that airline's rep, then they're able to pull, some strings for you. But it's difficult. I've had to earn my status on every airline.
It's
We've
the
actually
worst. It's the worst.
It's the worst. It is. I had to change my status from American to United, and they did the status match. Otherwise, I'd be building up. So it's one of those, like, you usually have to put in the time to earn the perks. But if you sell a ton of it, then you're typically able to take advantage of those.
Yeah.
Depending
So,
on what they have.
yeah, sorry, Lydia, we don't have great news for you on that end, unfortunately. But there are other fun things that come along with being a travel advisor. So, well, Lindsay, let's see. As we're wrapping up, if people have more questions for you, or they want to learn more about Travel Leaders 365's program, and I should also mention, so Lindsay really focuses on the luxury sector side of things. That's like her passion and what she's building out. She can talk. She's been selling for a long time, so she can talk expertly about a lot of things. However, that's kind of her area of focus. But if people want to reach out to you, what would be the best way to do that?
Via email is usually the best, and we've just updated it, so it's a lot shorter. So ltaylor@tl365.com. So
Ooh, I
simple.
like it.
Isn't that fun? I know.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect. Well, I've got that written down. And then let's see. So for upcoming Friday 15s, June 2nd, we don't actually, it's going to be me flying solo. Travel Leaders Market Square is sponsoring it, but things may get weird because it's me by myself and there's no one to rein me in. June 9th, we have TPI. I'm thinking Jen Lee is going to be co-hosting with me. And then the following week, June 16th, we'll have Million Miles Travel co-hosting. So hopefully you can join us for one of those. And just a reminder that if you have questions, to submit them, hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15. And then you can also get your email reminders for every Friday, what questions we're going to ask, who the co-host is going to be, and the link to where the fun is going to be happening. And you can sign up for that at hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15. So, Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Steph. Appreciate it.
Yes, and happy Memorial Day weekend to everyone. We will be back in June and see you soon.
Thanks.